Okay, so the only other area where I feel where I feel strongly is because I feel like the incoming administration, it was a huge increase in the fire department. I know we had a lot of representation by the fire department last meeting, and I think, I've listened to their concerns. I know their concerns, and we did get, information from the fire chief about the adjustments and the pay plan. But I think that that's really something that's important for the next administration that's going to be coming here in, a little over, a month and a half or a little over a month, to make those decisions and really dictate the direction that they want to go with the fire department and where they want to go and working in unison with this council. So my recommendation is to remove that line, the fire suppression pay study adjustments, the complete 2.8 million, and then it's 2.855200. So remove that, and then also remove the additional fire administrative positions. I didn't have the benefits number for that for the added benefits amount for the two positions, which is 244,822, so it would be a little over that. And then add back, because, and like I said, I think we've been listening to the firefighters, and we know what their concerns are because we've heard a lot. So some of that funding, I feel it's important to reallocate towards maintenance and to supplies. So my recommendation is to put 300,000 of that money into the maintenance line item, so we can actually fix the fire stations to a higher level, and we may need more money than that. That's, right now they have 250, and so I think, we're more than doubling it. So if anyone on the council has any suggestions for, a different amount, then we certainly would entertain that. And then lastly, supplies. I heard from several firefighters that they have to buy their own batteries, their own supplies. So increasing that supply item to, right now, I believe it's medical supplies, it's very meager. It's probably less than $2,000, maybe $3,000. I think we need to increase that to $75,000. So maybe that's too much, too little, I don't know. But I think we need to do something to show that we're listening and that we recognize that we want to make incremental improvements and we want to do this, but we have to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. And we want to work with the fire department. You guys are important, very important first responders. And we just want to work towards a goal that is moving in the right direction. So the total, overall, the total budget impact would be returning around 3.6 million, almost 3.7, to moving that out of the budget and returning it to the fund balance general fund, so it can be allocated and maintained as cash. So, any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman, if we could, do we want to entertain these in globo? Would you like to make a motion on them individually? If so, we need to make a motion in a second to put it on the floor for discussion on the
I
amendments.
think we want to do it
Individually?
individually, yeah.
So I have a motion by Councilmember McKinney.
And I'm not sure how thank you, Madam Chair. I have an added amendment to her presentation that I unfortunately did not share with the council. I did speak with the chief when I got here today, and I spoke with the finance director to confirm the numbers. But I would like to add to this so we can, do it all together as opposed.
Well, she's going to entertain them individually.
Okay.
So at the end of this, I will entertain your motion to amend. I won't forget you.
Thank you.
I'll put it on.
I guess initially, just looking at this, I don't even have enough information to make this decision. Again, haven't even talked to anybody about it. So in the absence of not even knowing what we're looking at here, why? I have no problems, looking at a budget. Former banker, I have no problems looking at a budget, but I think there should be, and here we're going to have discussions on these line items. But in Globo, I would like to know if by individual, people sitting here at this table, did you all have input to this? This is serious. This is the budget going forward. I won't be here in the next term, but I'd like to know how this came about. And I think the people deserve to know how this came about. We're making drastic changes in the fire department. How did this come about?
Councilman Brannigan?
Well, yes, it came about by several council members going over the budget as we did last year. And in the charter, you cannot unfund positions and get them back after July 1. That is my understanding of the CAO, the DCAOs, and the city attorney. So they have to be funded in the budget. That's why they're being put back into the budget. The other issue with the fire department is we have met with a lot of the fire department employees. We have met with them and talked about what their concerns are. And basically, by moving the fire budget to next month, then the new administration and the council will meet on that budget and decide where we need to go with it. And I understand from listening to the firemen and whoever came up and spoke last time about the pay being low, okay? $8.92 an hour, yep, we were told that, and basically, that is very low. But the bottom line is that there are other pieces to the pay plan, and we want our firemen paid as much as the city can afford to pay them. But when you add the overtime that they get, and you add the state pay into what they get, the $8.92 is not the real hourly rate. It is $13.23 if you're at $8.92 per hour. So there's a lot of stuff in this fire budget that has to be, that we have to go through, and I have committed to the fire department to make sure to get this stuff straight so that we're hearing what they're saying, and we're gonna get the fire department squared away. But yes, several of the council members have gone over this budget as we did last year.
All right, let's proceed.
Yes, sir. For the fire department amendment, we would be removing fire and suppression pay study adjustments at the amount of $2,855,200, $2,855,200,000, okay. 200, and then we have remove additional fire administrative positions, benefits not included, $244,822.
Madam
Ed.
Clerk, could we talk about individual items before we do it in Globo?
Well, Council Chairman,
Yes.
I would like that because, like Councilman CEO and Councilman Hayes, I hadn't seen this until today, and there's an issue with one of the employees because you're defunding a position, and it is a civil servant, I realize that, but it's going to be an issue because one position is not filled. I'm not going to steal everything from Chief Morris, explain that in more detail, but we would have, and he's actually here right now, the employee, he would be defunded if this passes. Chief?
Chief Morris, please.
Well, actually, before you speak, I do want to just say that I got an updated number that would not, in the intervening time, so I wanted to decrease that removal to only the one position, and the decrease would be 172,738, so it would only be decreasing one position.
This is line 2.
Yes, line 2, so
What's that number again, please?
172,738. And so we're just removing one additional person, because, yeah, there was some confusion in the budget hearing that they were both not, as a result of the budget hearing, they were both not filled. So there's clarification now, we're just gonna eliminate the unfilled position, and that may answer your concerns.
Right. Well, that's the second item on your list, so we'll talk about that one. That position was filled. the position wasn't approved by the Civil Service Board. It was the position of the chief that would be over the suppression, the entire day-to-day operation of the department, that the Civil Service Board didn't accept that particular position that was put forward as being eligible to serve over the line classes. So the individual was already in that position. We just had to remove him, but we still need the position to manage the day-to-day operations of the suppression side of the fire department.
So the
So you-
position, so the open position is
Needs
now
to
filled
be-
as well?
No, the open position, we need to put a new class plan in that will meet the approval of the Office of State Examiner, basically.
Okay,
But someone was in that position.
okay.
So you need both.
Right, but we.
Right, I was talking about the one
The way
that's
it was set
actually-
up, the way it was set up originally.
Right.
We had to,
Correct.
but they said one of the position that we put forward, the chief administration, could not manage suppression.
Correct. So we need
that-
two.
So we needed the chief administration for administration, but we need the one for suppression, but we just need to call it something else.
So those two positions are
Right.
needed, is what the fire chief is trying to explain to you, which we could have answered had we known about this. We would have been able to answer it for you, but we're answering it now because someone's about to be out of a job and the other job's not going to be filled, and the chief is saying we need both.
Well, I mean, I guess there was definitely some confusion in the budget agenda, or in the budget meetings, because we asked if those positions were filled, and it was said
Well,
that they weren't, so I
Right.
guess
Well,
there's
no,
some
what we did was move.
confusion there.
They were originally under suppression. The two positions, the chief administration officers were under suppression for the safer grant numbers, but we've increased the staffing to a number that satisfies the protection of the city. So those positions are more administrative positions, so I moved them from suppression to administration in the budget. That's why they showed up higher on the administrative side. They had already been in the budget for the past several years. We just moved them from under suppression category to administration where they truly belong.
Okay.
So again, just to clarify, Chief, this second line item, you're saying you recommending that we leave
I
it in?
recommend that you leave it in. One of the positions is sitting right here. Chief Bergeron is in the chief administrative position.
Well, that's why he's all excited about this, right? All right, thank you, Chief. Do you wish to make any?
I mean, okay, I guess I just want to clarify, so I'm okay with taking out Chief Bergeron, but there's still, is there an unfilled position? Are both of those positions filled from fire suppression? Like, are they both, the ones that are in the admin, are they both filled currently? Is a person, if we take out one of them, is someone going to lose their job?
No.
Okay, well, then I'm going to take that out.
But I think what the chief
we
is
need the
saying,
spot. We need the position.
the chief
Well,
is,
but, I mean,
Wait, hold on one second, please, Mayor. Go ahead, Chief.
No, the position is it's a position that keeps the continuity of the department, the work inside of the department together. We just couldn't keep that second position. We had to remove it in March when the Civil Service Board didn't approve that position to manage the work inside of the department. So the position, because no one is physically in the position because of a civil service issue, but we need a person in that position.
okay, so what was the civil service issue? Why didn't they approve it if they don't?
Because of civil service laws on the fire department, and we have a whole bunch of special rules for a lot of different things. And one of them is a chief administration position title cannot manage suppression, which is what one of those positions were. So we had to remove that. Now we have to create another position that's suitable for the the Office of State Examiner to put a person in that position.
Okay.
Somebody's been managing suppression all along, up until March,
Okay, so how long has that position been a part of the Kenner Fire Department?
since 2018.
Since 2018, okay. So it is a relatively new position,
Okay.
so, okay. And no one holds it right now?
No one is, no, ma'am. Right at this moment, no one holds that position.
Okay. I still want it to stand.
Mayor, did you have any comments?
Yes, sir. No further discuss,
So what are we doing?
So, okay, so my recommendation is still to remove that unfilled position for 172. And we could do it line item by line item if you want, because maybe, maybe some people want to, if we could do line item by line item, that way people can vote against and vote for whatever they choose.
so, right now, I have a,
Yeah.
I have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Brannigan, for the fire department budget amendment to remove fire suppression pay study adjustments, the amount of 200. Any discussion? I believe the mayor has his hand up.
Chief, what does this do to your fire department and do to the safety of residents by a position like this being removed? Because after June 30th, I'm a resident and I'm concerned.
Right. I have to be careful with what I say because part of this, as I told you in the budget hearing, is part of potential litigation.
Chief, speak up, please.
As I said in the budget hearing, part of this is part of potential litigation against the city to correct that. We created a pay plan for the fire department to address the promotional rate within the city and also correct the low starting rate for the firemen. Our starting rate at $8.92 is, the next one I found is East Bank Consolidated, but they get a 5% raise every year for years 1 through 15, which moves them up a lot quicker than our guys are. They start at $10.05. The next one is St. Bernard Parish, which is $10.50 from the $8.92 number. That's the basic number. Councilman Brannigan, with all due respect, you're on the right road, but you're not in the right spot with it. So, and our numbers, once you factor in the overtime state pay to a firefighter salary, it does increase from the $8.92, but it only goes to $12.17 an hour when you do all the actual calculations that's involved with that. So in order to keep us competitive, going to a $12 an hour rate, and I just did it on the phone, puts them at $15.47 effective rate an hour.
And that's based on adding the state supplemental pay,
Yes, sir.
calculated hourly
All the-
rate, and the overtime.
And
Y'all have the
overtime.
most complicated pay system I've
We
ever
do.
seen.
That's why I'm trying to say
It's totally
you're
ridiculous.
You're on the right street, but in the wrong part of town, so to speak. So,
Okay.
but it's actually, it moves us to $15.47 starting pay. But as I told you, we can't give raise to some people and not others because of our laws and pay system and all these other things that we are under statutory requirements to do. So if we're going to raise the starting pay, we have to move everybody along from that in accordance with the law, the 2% per year that's mandated by law that we have to get. So I wouldn't be able to start the new guys at $12 and have a guy with 7, 8 years making $12.
Oh, I understand
Okay,
that.
so
I
that's why the
understand that.
numbers, I say they move up.
But from our standpoint, and my standpoint, what I'm looking at is when you take the averages, okay, and you and I discussed this before this meeting, that my numbers are pretty close. They're not to the penny. I'm not trying to hold anybody to the penny on this, but, you know, if we're at $8.92 an hour, we're at $8.92 an hour.
Right.
Okay? And as we talked earlier before this meeting, in my calculations on my spreadsheet, if I go up $2 an hour, and at the last meeting, we were told we had 50 people under
$12.
$12 an hour. And I found out this morning that 3 of them are at $8.92,
Right.
and the other 47 are different years, so they're going up.
Right.
So I calculated that it would cost the city for a $2 increase in base pay, it increases the overtime pay, and it doesn't touch the state pay, and it costs the city $311,000. But that number's not correct because people are making, the three are at 892, the next one, what was it, like 920 or
yeah,
something?
yeah.
Or, so the 311,000, it's not gonna, if you go up $2 an hour, it's not gonna be at 311, it's gonna be lower than 311. So if we go from 892 to $12 an hour, then, I mean, we would still be looking at a $400,000 or $500,000 increase. But the goal is to get the minimum pay up, and I understand what you're saying, that you can't raise the starting pay from $8.92 to $10.92 and have a guy making $9.50 an hour. I get that.
Right.
So we need to get together and work this pay deal out.
Exactly, and that's why I was saying, that's why the number that was submitted was more in line with all encompassing of the city's total burden and what it's gonna cost us to move that, as well as address the past promotional rate issue and then resolve all these issues in that one lump sum. So
But-
it's
but-
something that needs
okay.
to be really explained
Okay, but-
in detail for you to understand, because the pay matrix is so complicated in
Okay.
the fire service.
Yeah, it is. It's the dumbest pay system I've ever seen in my life. But going from 892
Right.
to $12 an hour, you have in the budget $2.8 million in that. That's what you told us in the budget
Right.
hearings.
Exactly.
And when I go up $4 an hour, I come up with $623,000. So that's $2.2 million difference.
But,
And I
yeah.
know there's a lot of other factors. So
Oh,
I really think that you need to sit down with a couple of the council people and let's figure this thing out.
Right, but yeah, also in your numbers, you only figured for 50 individuals when we have about 110, 112 people that this, hundreds
so when you-
more than that
okay.
this affects.
So
So
the
that
people that are
number,
over $12 an hour are gonna have to be bumped up too.
right, they'll have
it's
to
gonna
be
be-
both up proportionate to the years of
So-
service and their rank and all these other things that the statute requires us to do.
Look, I'm committed to
Right,
get
and
our
I'm-
bottom line up and
Yeah.
pay our firefighters.
I'm sure
what
each and
they-
every one of
what
you are,
they
Councilman.
definitely
Right.
deserve, because, very important piece of the puzzle in the city, making sure your houses aren't burning down. I get that, okay? So I think that you and whoever else need to sit down with some of the council members, and we could do an amendment at any time after this and get this stuff worked out, so that we are not going up $5 million on a fire budget.
Well, yeah, I understand
You
that,
under-
but
you understand?
I agree with you. I agree wholeheartedly with you, but we need to do, first what keeps us out of court, and then what's fair for these guys in the long, what gives them a competitive wage in the fire service for what they do. The other part of that funding was to put in the medical sprint units. That's part of that $2.8 million. We had 3 calls last night. And when I say we don't have an ambulance, that's not just East Jefferson. That's Acadian, St. Charles Parish, New Orleans, and one of them was cardiac case, heart, chest pains and shortness of breath. We had an Irish diabetic crisis, and we had an accident with head injury where citizens are sitting there without medical care or the appropriate medical care. And we need to address that also. And that was part of that 2.82, because we don't have a line item in the budget to put that, to separate that out.
Okay, well, I think that further discussion needs to be made, and I want to make sure every firefighter knows that I will work on this to make sure that the fire department is fixed from the problems that we have there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Hayes?
Well, I is a singular pronoun. It just makes good management sense and common sense that we work with the fire chief. You know, I hope the 4 people that stay on this council for the next administration is working with the new administration on some of this. But obviously, a source that should have been consulted in everything we do with the fire department is standing right here in front of us. People, that's just common sense. So just based on that, I'm questioning a lot here. And again, I hope the new administration's had a lot of input to this. They're going to be living with this. We just glossed over the pay study. We jumped right to this. But again, nothing should be done without the chiefs being consulted on this. Obviously, we don't know the whole story, the council. So, yes, that's a good suggestion. Let's get together and talk about it before we try to make some of these changes. It's nonsense. Thank you.
Councilwoman McKinney?
Yes, thank you, Council President. So we're only discussing right now the removal of the fire suppression pay study adjustments, just as a point of order. But secondly, the motivation to remove that is so the new administration can work together with the fire department to, make this a priority and work with them to see what direction that they want to go, they're going to go in. Like I said, it's going to be a month, a little less than a month that they're going to be in, and then have full access to everything and really understand and dig in to understand. And I think that this is a huge budget commitment for us and for us to commit to them going forward. If they don't, if they choose to move in a different direction, or if they, decide to go, do something else. And I mean, I'm not speaking for them in any way, shape, or form, but I think that that's really a decision that they need to be making. And I don't, I don't, that's what my, my opinion is. And then, most importantly is this is committing, increasing pay for firefighters now is committing long-term for every Kenner citizen. That's, now, next year, we're going to have 3 million. The next year, we're going to have 3.5 million. The next year will be 4 million. So now we're going to have this compounding budget issue that we're going to have to deal with. So let's look at this about, how we're going to cover all of these, all of this pay and make it in a way that is going to be fiscally responsible. So that's really what, that's really why I think removing this and letting them move forward and make that decision is the most fiscally responsible decision for our body as well as the future administration's body. So.
Councilman Hayes?
Well, Councilwoman McKinney, now you're back on the suppression pay study, and that's the first thing I've heard about the first element. I wish everybody had this list to see. We're bouncing back and forth. The majority of the chief's comments concerned the second, which was the administrative positions. Chief, we heard loud and clear the last meeting in the attendance, the largest attendance we've seen in a long time, where the individual fire people came and said, look, do we really need this study? So I think that's valid. Administration, your administration probably thinks it does. It's in the budget. Your day-to-day fire people may not think that. So we're still on that first item. And I support, obviously, what we're doing here with the new administration. We can't tie the new administration's hands. So, again, we're back on the study, almost $9 million. Can we use that money elsewhere to better use? It's a whole nother discussion for another day. But again, I hope the four of you all are in discussion with the chief and the new administration on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Hayes. Councilman Brannigan?
And moving forward, too, after July 1st, I mean, we can amend the budget, open it back up. So, I think that gives the new administration the opportunity to come in and address what's going on, what we have to do in the fire department to make sure our commitment to the fire department is also in there, okay? So we can do an amendment after the fact.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief, I appreciate you coming up here today and also in the past, and of course, this is a good time. I'm glad that you did bring this up because it needed to be brought to our attention. And I think you have all of our interests, and we were very interested in trying to correct this. There is some correction apparently that needs to be done. I don't know that this is the exact right time. This is a large financial obligation, of course, that's set in the budget. Is this the right time to do this? We're on the verge of having another administration come in. I think it needs to be, and I'm glad it gave us an opportunity to really sink our teeth into it and understand what's going on. And quite frankly, yeah, I think something needs to be done. And I know Councilman Brannigan and Councilwoman McKinney, we all feel that way. And it looks like you've done an admirable job at getting it to our attention. I think we do need to bring the new administration in on this and have them key in their ideas too. So, but I think that should be done, as Councilman Brannigan said, with an amendment in the near future. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Carroll, did you have any questions?
I just want to say that I will be supporting this, and that, the chief, all of your work in the past 4 years, 3 years has been laudable. Even this is laudable, to be able to move the individual, the fireman, to a proper pay scale. But, as I said the last meeting, we obviously won't be able to do it all at one time. I think my priority is to bring the young firemen who are at that very low level up. Now, other people, I don't say they shouldn't, but we have to do one. I think we just have to do one thing at a time. A new administration is coming in. Your expertise to be able to address that is another formula that has to be done. But I think now, to get that pay raise for the younger guys, that is what we're doing today, and that is just my position on that. So I will be supporting, since we're online, the remove fire suppression pay study adjustments. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Sala?
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to say to the council that our attorney from Blue Williams, Craig Watson, is here, and he represents us in the Civil Service Fire Board. And he's also been working with the chief regarding PMI. And we can set up an executive session or individual meeting so you all can understand what's going with PMI. And again, there's certain things that cannot be discussed in this open forum that you council, but there's information that you council need to know. And as Councilman Brannigan did say, yes, you all can amend the budget afterwards, after that. So we can start setting that up as quickly as possible so you all can get the information you need so that you can amend the budget if that's what you decide to do regarding the chief's budget.
Thank you, Ms. Sala. Councilman Segura?
Thank you, Council President. But, Ms. Sala, just for clarification, because I'm confused, after this budget is approved, can the council amend it, or can only the mayor make an amendment?
You want to talk about that? I'm going to let Ms. Ellis take this.
Okay.
So the question was, after the budget is approved, can the council amend, or can only the mayor amend the budget? The council can amend the budget. The mayor can the council is always the one that votes to amend the budget. The mayor can introduce or ask for amendments to the budget to be introduced. That would be done as an ordinance, and that is something that's routinely done in many of your meetings. But the council can, bring its own amendment to amend the budget at any time during the year. It doesn't have to be immediate. It would be subject to your notice and hearing requirements. It would be treated as a new ordinance, and if it fell into one of the special provisions for the 28-day layover, you would have to honor that as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Well, I hope it does, because that's the complete opposite of my tenure in the city, to understand that the council budget hearings, and then at this meeting was the council's only opportunity to amend a budget, because after it was approved, only the mayor could make a budget amendment, which the council then could approve or disapprove. But it had to come through the mayor first. If you're saying it's open game and
I-
anybody up here can put up an amendment as long as 4 people say, yeah, I'm good for it, it happens, fine.
I can look into that more. You have lengthy experience, and so I can research that and look into that more. You know, I don't know of a restriction in your charter or in state law that only the mayor can introduce an amendment to the budget, but I can look into that and we can
Please, 'cause
follow
it-
up with you. Because
I'm just, for my
I respect
clarification,
your
it's for their-
experience and
It's for the new council's decision, so.
I absolutely respect your experience and would be happy to research that a little bit more.
Thank you. Councilman Brannigan?
So Councilman Segura, you're saying that after we adopt the budget, the mayor is the only one that can put an amendment in place?
Well, I'm not saying anything. I'm asking the question because my tenure with the city, I've never seen a city council make a budget change after it was approved and went into effect. In other words, July 1. Any budget change had to go through the mayor. That's how it's been, you know, under my watching of how the government works. So that's why I asked a question of legal to get that clarification, because I keep hearing your comment that we can make a change, and I'm just not
Well-
sure what the "we" is.
Okay, well, I feel very comfortable that if the council decides to try and fix the fire situation with the mayor-elect, we're not going to have a problem. I feel
glad you
very
that way.
confident
Good.
in that.
Shouldn't be a problem then.
Okay.
Mayor?
I think what Councilman Segura is talking about is two different, what y'all are talking about is two different things. The charter says one thing, the ordinance says something else. So if Councilman Brannigan is saying that he's confident that the new mayor will introduce an amendment that the council agrees with, you can do it. You have two different, look, the council has their law, and then the city has the charter that they go by. So there's two different laws here on that. I'm agreeing with you. My impression has always been any mayor, only the mayor can make that amendment after today. This is any council's opportunity.
And let me just correct that. I said July 1 because we know it's already been done where a mayor presented a budget, and between
Right.
then and July 1, the council did make changes. I was just referencing after July 1.
Right.
Thank you, man.
I don't have a problem with that.
Right. I got you.
Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Council members, please vote. Councilman Carroll?
And I guess for a point of order, could you make sure everybody know what we're voting on?
We are voting to remove the fire suppression pay study adjustments.
Thank you.
Councilman Carroll?
Yay.
Segura?
Yay.
Hayes?
Yes.
Brannigan?
Yes?
Brennan?
Yes.
McKinney?
Yes.
Wilmot?
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. Next amendment on the floor would be to remove additional fire administrative positions, benefits not included. The amount would be $172,738.
Can I?
Have
Can
a
I-
motion by Councilmember McKinney,
Can I-
seconded by Councilmember Brannigan on that amendment. Any discussion?
Yes. Councilman Hayes?
I want to hear what the chief is saying. The chief is still standing there.
Yeah, and can I, just a correction, that is including benefits. Originally, the amount didn't, but
Okay, thank you.
Chief?
Well, actually not to remove that position. That's critical position to maintain the continuity and the structure of the fire service as a whole. This is like the one person that keeps the 3 platoons in line, so to speak, so that we're doing things consistently across all 3 platoons, regardless to what that is. To remove that position removes that layer of discipline there. So I ask that you not remove that position. That position has been in the budget for the past 3 years.
Thank you, Chief. Councilman Brannigan?
Since the Civil Service Board changed the layout for you on your other position, saying they can't do this job. What have you been doing since they did that?
Winging it.
Huh?
Winging it for the most part. I've had this assistant chiefs, one of them is in the audience today, and they run the 3 different platoons, and then everything that occurs on a platoon is it falls on my desk to make certain that the day-to-day operations and the day-to-day trainings and the leaves and all the disciplines are conducted in a consistent manner across the departments, and it's not something that should fall directly in the chief's position with a large department. That works fine in volunteer departments because they don't have the numbers we have, but once we get to that larger department size, you need that position, that authority in between the chief to run the 3 different platoons, to make certain the 3 different platoons are managed consistently across the board.
So you're, since
Since
middle of
March.
March
Since March,
1st,
yeah, about
March-
a month and a half,
About a month
2
and a
months.
half.
Yeah.
You've been, it's fallen in your lap, and
Right.
you're the chief of the fire department.
Right.
So you have to take up that slack.
Right.
And, I
A
mean, I
lot, a
think
lot's
that,
falling through the cracks.
I think this falls in line where it could be fixed with the new administration, just like we just voted on a pay study. So that would mean that you would have to do it for another month.
I don't,
Right? No one's in the position now, right?
right, but someone's been in the position for the past 37, 38 months.
So if we eliminate this position, we eliminate a current employee right now?
Well, the reason I say no to that, because we need to create the position within the Civil Service
So
Board.
it's a
To-
it's a new position coming in.
No, I don't want to say it's a new position,
And how long has it
Councilman.
been since someone's been in the position? Chief?
about a month and a half. 2 months, since
So
March.
as Councilman Brannigan said, you've been filling the position, basically. You've been taking the duties on? Is that what you said? I'm sorry.
I've been doing my best to take the duties on, but it doesn't function that way with the size, with the growth of the department.
And if this is eliminated, you would still need to do that for the next 30 days or so.
Yeah, I have to do that for the next
I know
30
that's
days and
not exciting
potentially,
news for you, but,
potentially going forward also.
Councilman Hayes?
Chief, do we still have our 1 fire rating?
Yes,
We do?
yes.
If you could say it a little louder, because average citizens are probably going to want to hear that.
Yes, we still have the Class 1 fire rating.
Some of the changes that we're talking about here, could that put that in jeopardy?
Some of them could. Some very well could. A lot of things that need to happen on administrative side, on the top level. The guys in the field do the bulk of the heavy lifting for us, but the maintaining of that level of continuity and training helps ensure that that Cat 1 that Class 1 stay in place.
For everybody at home or everybody in the audience, you're saying it could put that 1 rating in jeopardy. Again, I just
Well,
hope,
when you start to factor in all that goes into achieving a Class 1, it's very few departments that achieve that. Let's say that first of all. More departments started achieving it after we did, when they relaxed some of the rules on there. We are poised with everything that's in place to be the best rated fire department in the state. Let me say that again. We are poised to be the best rated fire department in the state. We're
Chief,
approaching triple digits on our rating.
I have
with
no
the
doubt,
removal-
I have no doubt it was during your administration. I have no doubt that you're primarily responsible for that 1 rating. And again, that's why, new administration, the 4 of you all are still going to be here next term. I hope you're getting with the chief on some of these changes.
And if I may say something, Councilman Hayes, I agree with you, but, you know, we've had discussions with the new administration. They are very committed to the fire department and the safety of the citizens of Kenner. So, you know, I understand the concern about a Class 1 or a Class 2 or a Class 3 and the impact it has, but if you'll pardon the pun, this isn't a fire sale. I mean, it's something that's serious, and it's been discussed with the incoming administration.
With the chief.
So, Councilman Brannigan?
obviously, we want our 1 fire rating. When do we get reassessed?
The end of next year, we start the reassessment. Beginning of,
So the
beginning of
end-
2024.
The end of 2024?
The beginning of 2024, the end of 2023.
So if we're able to fix this next month, that should not affect long-term,
No.
correct?
No, not if we could get everything back in place that needs to be in place.
Okay.
Because most of the documentation that will be involved in the rating system will be,
From 2023?
well, from now, basically, through 2023. Because we had COVID and all that other stuff, so we got some slack
Okay.
with a lot of that.
Okay.
But all the documentation we have in place, the changes that we've made, the improvements that we've made, we are
Okay.
poised to elevate the standing of the department. Now, let me say this much. The class rating is nice. I feel a lot better when I know those guys getting off those trucks know what they're doing at every potential threat that we have in this community. So the citizens rest assured that when that red truck pulls up, the people getting off it know how to handle your problem. That's more important to me than the class 1.
Okay. Well, it's very important for the 1 rating for the people paying for their homeowners policies.
That's who that's important to. It's nice to have that.
Yes, indeed.
Councilman Carroll?
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank everybody for their comments. Thank you, Chief. Obviously, the class rating is important. I, like Councilman Brannigan and a number of us, believe that with the next administration, it's not going to be easy, but we're going to have to be able to work some of this out, and we can't do it all, at one time. No matter what the situation is, there will be some concessions at some level at some place. We know that, and it's just something we have to do. But besides the class that everybody's important about, and another thing that's important, there's a fire station in District 1 that has not been built. So that's important too. So let's not forget,
That's
we're
right.
going to talk about everything. And I
That's
don't
what I'm
want to
talking
go
about.
go
We have a
about
lot
that.
of things to put
That
in
is
place to
something else.
make that class 1, to
Exactly.
maintain that class 1.
Exactly.
It's not just
So
this one position, it's the fire station, it's the fire trucks, it's the equipment, it's the training, it's the staffing, it's a whole bunch of stuff that goes into that class 1.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it in, Chief, because
Right.
it wasn't said. So being the councilman for that district, obviously, I would be remiss if I hadn't said that. So the task is monumental, and it
Yes.
will include that as well.
Right.
But again, I have confidence moving forward that we will do the best, that the council will do the best along with the administration that they can, with the resources that they have. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Council members, please vote. Councilman Segura,
Yay.
Hayes,
What are we voting on? What line item?
to remove the unfilled fire administrative position.
I hear the chief saying don't, no.
Councilman Brannigan,
Yes.
Brennan,
No.
McKinney,
Yes.
Wilmot,
No.
Carroll.
Yay.
Motion passes 4-3. Council members Hayes, Brennan, and Wilmot are opposed. Your next amendment up is to the fire department to add maintenance line item to fire suppression for $300,000. The motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Brannigan. Any discussion on this amendment? Seeing none, council members, please vote. Councilman Hayes,
Yes.
Brannigan,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yay.
Wilmot,
Yay.
Carroll,
Yay.
Segura.
Yay.
Motion passes 7-0. The next amendment to the fire department budget would be to add supplies line item to fire suppression in the amount of $75,000. I have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Brannigan. Any discussion on this amendment as read? Seeing none, council members, please vote. Councilman Brannigan,
Yes.
Brennan,
Yes.
McKinney,
Yes.
Wilmot,
Yay.
Carroll,
Yay.
Segura,
Yay.
Hayes.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Next amendment to the fire department budget would be remove sprint units, firefighters/EMT B, and paramedics in the amount of $327,190. I have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember Carroll. You want,
Where is that?
Where is that coming from?
It's,
That's yours?
It's not even on our
that's the
sheet.
one we talk about, I mentioned earlier that was not on the list, and I did not, and
Oh, I'm so
full
sorry.
disclosure, I did not share it with anyone, but I did speak with the chief, and I did speak with the finance person to get the numbers, and we can talk about it now, and I can give
Sorry.
my reasoning for it, but
Would you read that again, please? I'm sorry.
Sure. Okay, I'm
I
sorry.
was looking through notes, trying to.
okay, I have a motion by Councilmember McKinney, seconded by Councilmember, I'm gonna change it, motion by Councilmember Carroll, seconded by Councilmember McKinney, to amend the fire department budget, by removing sprint units, firefighters /EMTB, and paramedics in the amount of $327,190.
and Mr. President, I'd like to.
Councilman Carroll? Yes, I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Finance Director, for the support. And, I'll just repeat it again. It was something, again, like I said before, that, this is a living and breathing and moving opportunity for us to get it done today. And I am taking the position to use that. And, speaking to the director, it was easy. Speaking to the chief, it wasn't as easy because I have to look him in the eye and tell him that I believe, even though I agree that we are having challenges with this, and I did look him in the eye and said, and he understood my position, not that he agreed with me because he don't agree with me, but I believe this is another one of those things. And actually, I did speak with some firemen who wasn't against it, but they had some concerns too. But that's just as individual, not as a whole. For the sprint units, for the paramedics, for the EMT. It's another part of this equation that the council and the city and the administration's going to have to factor in and see what do we do to improve that. And the chief has brought it to our attention. We will have to address this because there's nothing above safety. I don't care how much money a building costs or how much any of that. Nothing is more important than a life, and that is the most important thing that we are talking about today. And I think we will have to do something, but I believe moving this gives us opportunity to address other things as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman.
So, Council President?
Yes, sir.
Can-
Go, Mayor, please, I'm sorry.
What does that do? Because I didn't know about this either. And obviously, the finance director, nor you, talked to me about this.
Well, I just found out right before the meeting. I apologize.
It's been a few hours since the meeting started, guys, but can you inform me now what's going on?
Well, right as we were saying the prayer, Councilman Carroll approached me when he came in and asked me, and he just told me what his plans were to have that item removed from the budget. And it was a brief conversation that we
Can you
had.
explain what that does, Chief?
Well, as I said, we have several hundred, we're approaching 200 calls in the last couple of months.
Chief, please speak up.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilman. We have approaching 200 calls in the last couple of months that I've been tracking, that there are absolutely no ambulances available to transport members of the community, some of them very critical, to hospitals. What this does is sometimes, especially the cardiac cases, they are easy, the diabetic cases. I don't want to say they're easy, but the cardiac cases, and people in the medical field know, paramedics and stuff know that if you approach someone having a heart attack, right, it's not, unless you're having a myocardial, where you just drop dead, you get into arrhythmias. What a paramedic can do is do some of the same treatments that would happen to you in the emergency room in the 3 to 4 minutes it takes us to arrive. So without the transport unit, we're able to maybe correct that arrhythmia in that particular patient at any given time immediately while we're waiting for for transport units to arrive to bring these individuals to the hospital. Same thing with the diabetic crisis. At the level we are currently operating on, we cannot even give sugar water to a person in diabetic crisis like we had last night, one of the calls we had last night. So it becomes a case of can we do better? The other problem is when we roll the fire truck to make patient contact, it's always life before property. Once they make patient contact, that fire truck has to remain with that patient until a higher level of care is transferred, which means that ambulance has to get on the scene. So if the house next door catches fire, they cannot leave that patient. So we're tying up fire trucks for medical calls, where we're seeing an increase in medical calls when we don't have to. When we could run the sprint calls, we stood them up during COVID, we stood them up during IDA to manage that level of calls until we can correct the shortcoming in the EMS part of the first responder equation. This is not a new problem. When I went through EMT school in 1986, they realized that the burnout rate for paramedics was 10 years. So but nobody did anything to keep people in the pipeline in order to replace those people. So we're in the situation we're in now because nobody addressed this problem 35, 36 years ago. Same thing with the police department. We're starting to see it in the fire service. We used to have 100 and something, over 100 names ready to join the Kenner Fire Department. And now we're lucky to have, under 10 looking to join the Kenner Fire Department. So we're gonna start seeing these things happen over time. The question is, what do we do to correct these problems in the short term and eventually in the long term? Now, I've set up meetings with Oxnard to work out training for our guys and training and with the schools in Kenner and stuff to bring more people into medical and fire service from the high school level and start to pipeline these people that way. But that's down the road. You know, the training is immediate for us that they are offering that we're trying to meet with them on and whatever they can do in kind for the citizens of Kenner. But our immediate solution is to put these units on the streets, to treat these patients with a greater level of pre-hospital care than we can give them on a fire truck, and it's not tying that fire truck up for a potentially needed role. It's just a matter of time.
And, excuse me, Chief, and obviously I appreciate your passion for this, but I think it was important when you said this has been an ongoing problem or started 30 years ago that was not addressed from the overall system. And I am not, the Sprint vehicles, and I'm just going to use the Sprint to be inclusive of the other two items of it, we don't have those right now. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, Councilman.
Okay,
I apologize.
that's all right. Do we now have the Sprint units?
No, we don't have the Sprint units currently, but what we've shown and what we've done, like I said, in the recent past, was we're able to stand them up, but that comes at a cost, of course, to our existing budget. So we adjust accordingly in order to make these things happen. No, we don't have them
Right.
as a regular part of the service, but remember this, we have 5 trucks that can respond to a working incident. We have 7 altogether. 2 of them aren't designed to extinguish fires and stuff like that. So when you take 3 of those and take those out of the service, we left with 2 trucks basically protecting the city.
I get you, and I agree. I just wanted to make the point that we don't have them now. We didn't have them last year. We didn't have them 4 years ago. We never had them. All I'm saying is, and how many are we requesting in this particular budget?
I'm requesting 2, one for the north side, one for the south side.
Okay, so my point was that we don't have them now, and I'm looking at it in totality of everything. And this is just, again, another part of it that the new administration, yourself, and the new council will have to address. I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm just saying we have to start making decisions now to start looking at things overall. And this is just another part of it. So I don't want to get anybody to think that I am not supportive of the services that it will provide, but I just think it's just one of a number of things in all of these amendments that we are addressing. That's just my opinion, and everybody's going to have to decide on their own. If we want to leave it in for it, then don't support it. If you believe it is part of the total package that yourself and the new administration are going to have to address, then maybe you might want to support it. So that is just my position as it relates to the Sprint units and everything else that comes with it. And I appreciate your frankness about it and our ability to talk about it without, losing friendships, anything about that. So
Yeah, never.
thank you again. Exactly. So I apologize for not telling you earlier, because if I just may say something about that, listen, I could have gone over this budget a month ago or whenever I received it and had a position and walked in here today and changed my mind. I have to have that latitude to do that. Everybody does. Will it be a whole soul change? No, but there could be some things with all of us that we say, you know what? After getting additional information, after rethinking it, I just can't support that. So whenever someone says, well, this is my first time seeing it or whatever, I understand that, I respect that, but change can happen anytime. And I am just expressing my change on this particular subject about the Sprint units and everything that goes with it. But thank you, Chief. Thank you, and you and your guys for all your support as well. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Wilmot?
Thank you, Mr. President. Chief, you mentioned it's two Sprint units, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
How many, they firefighters, or they are actually medical people that are trained for that?
Well, until we could get the firemen trained to that level, we have to bring in PRN personnel to work at that higher level. But the goal is to get the PRN people in initially, and then have working with Oxygen and other outside partners as well as inside to train the rest of the firemen up. It takes, as you know, 2 years to train to become a paramedic. The goal is to get paramedics on all the units at all the time.
So these two Sprint units are going to be manned by paramedics, is correct?
One paramedic and one firefighter, one EMT firefighter.
Okay. And in the past, you've had recent calls, and it would been a help to have those units in
Yes, sir.
place? Okay. And how much money we talking about?
$327,190.
And these are PRN positions? And
Yes,
it's
they're not,
320
I'm sorry.
It's $327,000?
Yeah, because it's two paramedic positions. To put the two paramedics in, to work the shifts for the entire year in order so that we would have that level of care in the community.
Are they going to be employees, or they're
Well,
contract?
they work for other agencies. They work for us when on the shifts that we have, because as I say, we have basically 3 paramedics on the fire department totally. 2 are in the drop. 1 is firefighter. So we would have to bring in paramedics from the outside as a PRN, not a full-time employee, to man the units along with our firefighters
So we have,
until we could get our members trained to that level.
so it's like 2 people 24/7? Is that what?
We were running them overlapping schedules, so it'd be a window. We did the study on the peak times of the call, and it will fluctuate. You know, when we're having that large, because there's a period of time where nothing's generally happening, and we go with the firefighter, the truck rolling on that. But when we have those peak calls, and we're starting to see the pattern of the times that we have those calls, that's the times that we set the schedules.
So these people would not be city employees, correct? They're not going to get benefits?
No, that's they're not getting the benefits. No pension, no health insurance. that sort of stuff. They just, like I said, they could work for Acadian, AMED, St. Charles, New Orleans, wherever, but they pick up shifts here for a few extra dollars to do whatever they need to do.
Okay, we haven't had this before, correct?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, all right. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Hayes?
Well, Chief, as a 76-year-old diabetic with a bad heart, I'm listening to what you're saying real hard. Just want you to know that.
Councilman Segura?
Thank you, Council President. Chief, understanding your scheduling with your squads, 2 people are going to cover 24, maybe not 24/7, but let's say a period. But then, so the other half that they're not, it's just nobody covering.
No, we figured it's about a 20-hour window that they would work, because it's, like I said, it's middle of the night, 1 to about 4 or 5 in the morning. We get basically maybe 1 call every now and then. But those peak times that, you know, we've ran the data on when we would need them. So in order not to overburden us, you know, we could have the 2 units up during the periods of times where we're seeing the increase in volume of calls.
Okay, well then, I'm just making clear, I'm clear.
But we plan
two
on
units.
two 12-hour shifts, 1 12-hour shift apiece. But the shifts are going to overlap. So some window, the busy window, is where the 2 units would be in service at the same time.
But only then during that overlap do you clearly have a north side and a south side
Right.
unit. So beginning and end, it's 1 unit just covering the whole city.
Right.
Okay. And I heard you mention about paramedics and what they can administer, whether it be drugs or treatments. Do they have to call in and get a doctor to approve that before they do?
Well, we have Dr. Mahler, our medical director, already in place. He's the one that sets the direction, the medical direction for the fire department. He and Dr. Nichols wrote the emergency pre-hospital care for Region 1, which is this region already. So all those guidelines are already in place.
And I understand that as your policy of how
Right.
they operate. What I was referring to is the paramedic goes on a call and has to administer something. Typically, a doctor would administer. They would have to call in through radio, speak to a doctor, and then get permission to administer?
No, currently, if you're under the direction, working under his license, under his protocol, he already sets some of those emergency parameters. Now, they contact med control to let them know they have something working. But in other words, if you're in AFib or VFib or bradycardia or something like that, that protocol is already medically set, what you're supposed to do when you see those rhythms on the cardiac monitor, when you have those arrhythmias, what drugs you're supposed to administer.
Okay, and I'm being a little, I watch Night Watch, so I'll see those
I'm sorry.
paramedics call in. Now, you've been on there, so don't be knocking it. I see them call in through their radio to a
Right.
doctor to get permission. That's kind of where I was headed.
Well,
That's
like I
not
said,
bad.
it's some, and what you're seeing is New Orleans policy. They can do a certain thing, but if it doesn't correct what's going on, they'll make the call. But initially, if you come in and somebody's on the floor having a heart attack and you know that, you do the monitor, the O2, the intubation, and all these other things, look at the rhythm, and you could push the first set of drugs or run the first wave of shocking and call medical control. I'm working this code, I've done this, and then get further instructions from med control.
Well, let me just separate. The shocking, I think, both police and fire already do that now. They have the machines in their cars to read, and then the machine says shock. So they already do that.
That's all we do. That's all we do.
That's right. But the paramedic, I know, still does that. I'm looking for that higher level, that
Right.
drugs and that ever. You're saying the policy that will be in place, if they follow those steps, they don't need to get a doctor's a reapproval. They just follow the policy.
They follow that policy, right?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Carroll?
Yes, I'd like to, thank you very much, President. Thank everybody for their comments. Thank you, Chief. And in closing, I would just say that, again, all of my comments and everything that I said relating to is that, and Councilman Wilmot brought up, that these won't be City of Kenner employees. So I am not reducing or taking a job away from a City of Kenner employee. It is not 24 hours around the clock, so God forbid, we just never know when people get sick, and I just hope that it never will be a problem, even if people disagree with me, because there will be a window where we will not have coverage, correct?
Yeah, and as I said, there's nothing set in stone with this, because we need to look at what's happening in the community and in order to make the adjustments to it.
Exactly.
So it may end up being a 12-hour shift, or something like that. It may be a window where we can overlap because we've seen 0 calls for a window of time.
Yeah,
So it's a fluid situation, and the good thing about it is we have the ability to adjust that from inside the fire service as we see these patterns start to develop in the community.
Yeah, and to my point, and I'm not trying to beat you up, Chief, but that haven't been established yet. We haven't looked at it. We haven't looked at the statistics or the data to see exactly what would be the better fit once we do get them. So it would give us enough time that next month to be able to have more data that will show more information about what would be the optimum hours to have these units, right?
Well, no, sir. We have looked at it. We've been looking at it. Chief Bergeron ran a report of all the medical calls we get within the community. We've gotten the ones that even the ones we're not dispatched on, the ones that EJ basically handles. So we have every call that comes in at the time that these calls are coming in from the last 6 months, last year, Ryan? Something like that we've already ran the numbers on. So we have a good glimpse of where we need to start.
Right.
It's
So
not something that just happened yesterday. It's a problem that we've been seeing for a period of time now that we need to address.
No, and if you thought I implied that you hadn't, no, I know you guys have put works and hours in to establish it. I'm just saying there isn't any finalized schedule on paper right now.
No.
Right, that's all I'm saying.
No,
It's not
because-
there now. So 30 more days would give you that opportunity to have
30
a
more
more
days of data.
do what?
To get 30 more days of data.
Exactly, and that's just what it would give you, and what it does. This 300K does take away from the budget, So it can't be used for something else if we use it for this. Not that this isn't important, but those are just 3 things, and that's all I'm trying to be clear with everyone. This is my position on this, to be supportive and to get more data and to be able to support the overall fire department. That's just where I'm at. And again, I think I've talked enough about this, and thank you again for your support. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Council members, please vote. Councilman Brennan?
No.
Councilman McKinney?
Yes.
Wilmot?
Nay.
Carroll?
Yay.
Segur?
Nay.
Hayes?
No.
Brannigan? Yes. Motion fails 3-4. Council members Brennan, Wilmot, Segur, and Hayes are opposed.